Film in Minnesota. I'm your host, Alan Tracy.
And I'm Rahana Power.
And today we have Becca Mayo joining us today. Hello, Becca.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
We are really excited to have you.
Yeah.
Becca, I'm really interested in what your role is and what you do with the film community here. But before we jump into that, I know that we haven't met yet, and so just want to kind of get to know you a little bit better first. Can you tell us some fun fact or cool thing that you do or can do or have done?
Yes, this is actually one of my favorite stories to share too. So when Barry Jenkins' If Beale Street Could Talk was just about to be coming out in theaters, this was around the holidays, Christmas time. So I was actually at home in Charlotte, North Carolina with my mom. And I saw on Twitter that Barry Jenkins had tweeted about a special screening that was going to be happening in Atlanta that he'd be attending for a post-screening Q&A because he's from Atlanta, and so his family's all there. So he was already going to be in town for the holidays. And so I immediately went online and I bought 2 tickets, just kind of assuming that my mom would let me use her car. Only a 4-hour drive from Charlotte to Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, that's totally doable. I can do that. Well, then my mom was not so happy that I just made that assumption. And so I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to get to the theater, but I knew I was going to get there. Mm-hmm. And so I rented a car and I tweeted about my situation. And I tagged Barry in it, basically saying, when my mom doesn't let me take her car to see Barry Jenkins, but I am going to find a way. And he tweeted back at me, actually.
Ooh,
and
what?
Oh, it gets better. He tweeted back at me, basically saying oh my gosh, that's wild. Send me the receipts afterwards and I got you covered. And I was like, okay. And so I drive to Atlanta for the screening and I see the film and I'm just blown away. I'm honestly still surprised it never became as popular as Moonlight because it's just such a beautiful film. Mm-hmm. And I asked a question during the Q&A and I went up to him afterwards and told him that it was me who used the rental car. And I sent him the receipt afterwards and he paid me back more than what my rental car costs were. And then now we actually have the same birthday and he's been wishing me a happy birthday first on Twitter.
What makes sense? So you're best friends with Barry Jenkins is what basically. You're telling us. Okay.
Wow.
He's my good friend. Academy Award winning director, Barry Jenkins.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he's a gem. He is truly so beyond nice. So nice. He seems to be with all of his success, so aware of where he started and how he got to where he is now. Mm-hmm. And just has so much wisdom, so much great advice to offer. And I love him. So
that is amazing. I mean, if you ever think that he needs more friends, you just let us know. We could all just be a foursome of friends, and we're in. That is a great fun fact. I love that story.
Thank you.
Yeah. The closest Twitter excitement I would get to that is that Sean Baker liked one of my tweets, and that's about it. And then I shared it, and people were someone was "Who's Sean Baker?" And I was oh. And that was around Tangerine time because it was the iPhone film, and I was mm-hmm. I got next. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make an iPhone film, so it's he's okay, he liked it. I like that. So nowhere near as much as your ticket and rental car.
Yeah.
And
Very
birthday
cool.
wishes.
Yeah. The birthday thing is just like the icing on top of the cake.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It surprises me every year now.
Yeah. I love that. I think my closest Twitter interaction is yesterday, actually, I had 2 fake Chris Evans try and follow me. So, I mean, use the same picture and everything, same like photo or like the cover photo of his pup. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized it wasn't. And I was like, man, twice in one day. I got really excited and really disappointed all at once. But someday.
One day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Someday. But
if Beale Street could talk. So if Rahana's Twitter could talk. No.
If only.
Yeah. So Becca, we kind of have this follow-up question, just kind of like, what have you been into lately? What have you been up to? Like things you're into right now? Anything that comes to mind? Could be anything.
Okay. Something that I've been into, it's so unrelated to film, but I have been really wanting to get into stained glass art. I really just like being crafty, and I have a really bad habit of picking up new hobbies that I think I'm going to be super, super into. And I spend like a few months being all about it before I just lose interest and go to the next thing. But it kind of makes me, like a jack of all trades. So I feel like I have a lot of skills that are useful in different situations if I ever find myself in those weird situations.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That makes me, I don't know if you've ever watched New Girl, but there's at the beginning or end or something of a season, there's like an episode where Jess is like, she's just doing all of these random hobbies and things throughout a summer. And that's totally what that makes me think of. Like, you're just really good at everything because you just like pack it all in. What is your favorite like hobby that you've kind of picked up, even if it's like faded away? Like, what's the one thing you think like, this is kind of the coolest thing?
I mean, honestly, I really love knitting in the winter specifically. Just because it's nice, and all I really know how to make anyway is scarves.
Yeah.
But it's just so nice to feel like nice and cozy. I don't even need a blanket because the scarf just starts covering my legs when I'm knitting on the couch. Yeah. And it's so nice to just like pull up a movie or a show on my TV, just have my dog sitting next to me and knitting away.
Love that. Absolutely. Nice. Well, I'm interested to hear like what comes of the stained glass, because I've never actually even thought that was something that you could just like get into, or how that would work. But I'm very intrigued. So
I'll let you know.
Let us know. Yeah.
Well, Becca, since we're here to talk about film more, what is your role? Like, you're a part of MSPIF, Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival, and the Film Society here. What is your role with that, and how did you get involved, I suppose?
Yes. So at the MSP Film Society, I am their marketing and outreach associate. So basically what that means is that I manage all their social media. So if you see us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, say, hi, that's me, and give us a follow. But then we put on MSPIF every year, our annual showcase centerpiece. And I got involved actually first as a volunteer. I work directly with the volunteer coordinator. So it's kind of his assistant, basically managing people in a way, and what volunteers were doing. So that kind of entailed just making sure ballots were ready at the festival for volunteers to give to people after they saw a movie, and they knew what movie was coming next, and volunteers knew where they needed to be. And then there's kind of a break in between. Then I started in 2020 as an intern, right when we were gearing up for our 8th Cine Latino Film Festival, which is our little niche Spanish and Portuguese language festival. And then from there, I've just always been with them. So I kind of just worked my way up from intern to part-time. And then I became full-time in February of this year.
Wow.
Yes. So
That's
I climbed that ladder.
yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember when I first met you outside the screening of Emily the Criminal. I think you had like a NASA jacket on and like I don't know, some sort of skirt or something. It was just like wild. It was like
Like that's what's fun about working in film.
Yeah.
You know, and like at a festival, like I don't know, I see when you work in the arts as you don't have to dress corporate.
Right.
Yeah. Can really be yourself.
Yeah, it was very unique. And you had a camera which drew me in. So
oh yes, during the festival, I was also the head photographer. So in front of that step and repeat, get all those cute photos in.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Yeah.
So Becca, what made you want to get into film? Like what drew you to it originally?
You know, it's honestly kind of hard to say. I feel like what most drew me in is that it was always a constant in my life. So when I started college, I had no idea what I wanted to do whatsoever. I probably changed my major maybe like 5 times. And then, I transferred as a junior too. So clearly I had like no idea what I was doing because who does that? But like even from when I was little, like I remember growing up, we would do like a family movie night on like Fridays or Saturdays. And it would either be us going to like Blockbuster.
Yep.
And when we would go to Blockbuster, side note, I would always pick Clueless. Even though they would always run on TV at that time too, like it would just constantly showing up, but I would still rent the DVD when we would go. But if we weren't going to Blockbuster, my parents both had a really great DVD collection. And so I just have these really vivid memories of like looking through all of their DVDs and kind of picking things based on the art on the DVD case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of things I probably shouldn't have watched at my young age, but
like what?
Okay.
Like the Amityville Horror. I remember specifically the one scene where when the clock would strike like 3:15, the dad would get out and start like chopping wood with the axe. And like at one point he like forced his son outside to just like scare him and stuff like that. Has stayed with me as a memory from that movie. And then like when Rent, the movie came out, I think I was going into the 5th grade and my mom took me to see it in theaters. So.
Yeah, but you're what, 10 in 5th grade?
Yeah.
Hopefully at that point you at least don't understand some of the things that you shouldn't be seeing.
Oh yeah, no, it all went over my head, but I did like the songs. But even the lyrics of the songs went over my head. Like my favorite song was Light My Candle. I had no idea what they were talking about. What was on the floor? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But
understandable.
Yeah, so I think it's mostly just that it was always in my life. And I don't know, I always knew though too that I didn't necessarily want to make films. I really like to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while too, I didn't really think there was a way for me to get involved in film because I never knew what type of job I could get if I wanted to work in film, but not as a filmmaker. So yeah, I feel like really lucky that I found the program that they offer at the U, because I don't even really know of any other programs at colleges that offer film, but not a production track.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great point. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who are like, I love film, but maybe don't want to be an actor or a director, right? Like any of those things that you would have to like really specialize in and just don't know that there are still ways into that world. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. Have you ever tried a production role, for instance, or?
Yes, I guess I have. Like like for school projects, that type
Yeah.
of thing I have done. I will say I do enjoy editing, that part of it. I remember they brought in a special speaker to the U, and it was part of their grad program, the moving image. It's MIMS GG is the name of the program, I think, at the U. And so they brought in a professor, I think from Vermont, and I'd actually read a lot of his books in my classes. So I was kind of fangirling when he came in, but he was working on kind of writing, not really writing, because it was going to be a visual book about Breaking Bad, where it was all going to be video based.
Interesting.
Like video essays. That's the phrase I'm looking for. So it was kind of going to be like that. And so what he came to talk about was just the way that you can take an existing video and kind of mess with the visual aspect of what's going on, but also the audio to almost create a new story. And so the little project thing that we had to do was take a piece of media, it could be a film, it could be a TV episode, and do just that. And there's a specific word for it too. It's, I think it's Japanese, and it has to be a minute long. So there are very specific things about it when you're making it, but I had the most fun doing that. And so I found now that I like to play around with what's already out there and just, I guess, kind of put my spin on it.
Would you ever consider, this might be stealing part of our next question, I apologize.
That's okay. I stole from yours. So
okay. Would you ever consider maybe going in, like kind of steering into that lane moving forward? Or is it something that you really strictly want to have, like, this is just something fun that I like to play with and I don't want to actually like focus on that or ever do that?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that I like to just do for fun, especially because I'm a very stubborn person. And so I don't think a director would necessarily love working with me on editing if I'm very dead set on like, no, this is what looks good. But I mean, there are other roles that I would like to do that I think would kind of be better suited for my skills too. Like, you know, the editing is fun. It's fun to do. But there are a bunch of extremely skilled editors out there who, you know, really, for whatever reason, that is their passion, is like squinting their eyes in Premiere Pro to see the perfect frame to delete or cut something else in. But I feel like curation is a part of the film world that, I don't know, maybe that kind of role, I think, has more nuance to it. It's not, you know, it's not just picking a couple films out just for funsies, you know. There should be really, there should be a lot of meaning behind each choice that someone is making on why they think people need to watch it.
That's a good segue into this question. It's like, what is your ideal role within film, you know, in general or as a whole? Yeah,
I think it would be curating or programming. I don't know. I do think very highly of myself. I'm not the type of person, you know, that needs to be hyped up really. I like to think that is my East Coast tendency. So, I mean, I know what I'm not good at, but I also know what I'm good at. And I think I'm good at seeing what people respond to well, and maybe being able to read between the lines of why they're responding well to it or why they're not. And so sometimes when I do see a film, once it's over, I immediately think of another one where I'm like, that would make a perfect double feature. And just because, I don't know, it's just always in the back of my mind. And I like to always look at other people's reactions to things too. So I'm really drawn to, I guess, just how other people are responding to what they're watching and taking in.
Right.
I would say that's a superpower, honestly. Not even just a skill, but like knowing like, yes, I'm good at this and I like this, and like being able to actually just like claim that. I feel like people, like a lot of people really struggle with it, probably especially even in this field. Because you're not like necessarily all built to like have that giant self-confidence. And so that's definitely a superpower in my eyes.
Plus
Yeah, definitely.
Plus it makes sense that you're in social media. You're getting some data lines right there. And then you're kind of you're both social and analytical, it seems. So like you have that kind of in there.
Oh, and Rihanna, just to comment too on what you were saying about how not many people necessarily have that ability. I mean, I feel like part of it too is the way, or I guess women's roles in film and how women are still treated in the film industry. And so like, I remember when Alma Harrell, who was the director for Honey Boy, she likes to shoot very like one scene, they'll shoot it one time and she'll know that it's good and they don't need to shoot it again. Yeah. And there are like male directors who will do the same thing and no one will question it. No one will bat an eye. But when she was making the film, people would be asking her like, oh, are you sure you don't want to do it one more time? Are you sure you have everything? And so I don't know. I was never really raised to, I don't know, look for assurances or second guess myself really. And especially now, like, as long as I can admit when I'm wrong, that's the most important thing. But otherwise, I'm not going to be another woman putting up with bullshit, basically. Because I don't put up with it in my everyday life. So just because, you know, I mean, I'm this little 5'1" short girl, and some people still think I'm a child. So like, I already have all of that working against me. So I'm not going to ever for a second let you think that you might be able to try and put me in some corner that I don't want to be in. You know, no one puts baby in a corner.
That's right.
True.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. 100%.
I love that. That's excellent. That's kind of the way it should be. But here we are, right? We won't talk about other things that are happening right now. Okay, breathe. Maybe this is kind of a two-prong question. I'll start with the base question. What do you love the most about working in film in Minnesota with film? But also, how did you get to Minnesota? I mean, I don't see that track laid from North Carolina, right? To Minnesota. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how that happened. So please go ahead.
Well, that part of the question is probably a faster response, which is basically just that I originally moved here in 2016 when I was transferring to the U, and I really hate moving. It is not fun. It's really stressful. Right. And I was kind of just thinking about what I would be doing after graduation. And I thought, well, you know, I'm already kind of in the middle of the country. And when you work in film, most people are thinking they'll either end up in LA or New York. And so I was like, well, I really don't want to move again. And I don't know if I might end up in either of those places post-graduation. So I might as well just stay here for now, try to figure things out, see what kind of job I even want to do, and then go from there. And so now I'm still here. And I will say I do like it now a lot more than I did when I first moved here. It definitely took some adjusting, but now I'm actually very defensive of Minnesota and kind of ties into why I like working in Minnesota within film, because the state is really great to artists.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I had to do some research on like the best cities in the country for artists and the best states, kind of based on how much state funding was available to artists in those places. And Minnesota is it's up there in the top with how much money artists get, not just strictly for film, but just really any discipline. We have a really great arts community here, especially like in Charlotte. The two independent theaters I used to go to, they both closed. One of them closed before the pandemic and one of them closed during it. I mean, now they have one new independent theater there, but it's nothing like what we have here. Like here we have so many places where you could go and see either an independent film that's new or an older film that like you've never seen in a theater before. Like I got to see Clueless on the big screen at the Trilon, and
Yes.
that was amazing. It was so much fun. And like people would quote the movie at all the funny parts. It was awesome. But we have so many places here that like offer those types of opportunities to see things. And I love that so much. Like it's something I would definitely miss if / when I were to move away.
I have to ask, is Clueless your favorite movie?
It is up there. Okay. It is up there. Yes.
Which is understandable.
I can't ever just choose one favorite. That's the thing.
For sure.
And I'm like that with anything. I'm not super like crazy about any one thing in particular. So I'll have like a rotating top 5 or something, depending on what mood I'm in and what season it is.
Yes. Yeah. I'm the same way. So I definitely get that. But also I have a love for Clueless as well. So totally understandable. So what do you like, what are your thoughts or what's your take on like the marketing, from a marketing perspective for filmmaking here in Minnesota, whether it's like from maybe a filmmaker's perspective or just like from the sort of the business aspect inside of the industry?
Yeah. So I feel like I definitely see a lot of stuff about locally made films and when those Minnesota made films are showing. Like I know that I've seen posts about a film that they're showing at the Capri that I think it's a documentary about something that has to do with baseball. I know it's something that has to do with baseball. But so I know I see things like that I don't really typically see in other places. It seems like Minnesota is really good about saying when there's a Minnesota connection, like that's always a selling point. And I never really see that like for in New York, if they're promoting a film at, Tribeca or really any other smaller festival that's happening, they're not like, this director, New York born and bred, come support your fellow New Yorker. It's not really like that. So I do really like that about the marketing here when it's about Minnesota, that's a big selling point. And I think that says a lot about the community that we have here, that's enough to make someone want to come out and see something, just knowing that the person is from the same place as you. Sure. I do really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like people are really like proud of the work that they do here, as they should be. And the community itself is just really connected and supportive. And I think that helps what you were saying a lot, like pushes for it.
Yeah. The one thing though, I kind of just wish people would stop always bringing up the Coen brothers in a way. Like whenever you want to talk about like stuff from Minnesota, I'm like, okay, I get it. Coen brothers, but no one really talks about like Judy Garland as much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we respect our queen?
Yeah. The national treasure that is Judy Garland. Yes. That's an excellent point. Next time somebody does that, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I mean, especially too, when you think about, I mean, personally, the Coen brothers I feel like their films, walk a very thin line between being super niche film bro-esque movies versus like The Wizard of Oz, which is, Hollywood blockbuster, but it's still, I mean, there's so much packed into that movie, but it's definitely, palatable by all ages too. Mm-hmm. Like I was a kid when I watched it. Yeah. I wasn't watching any Coen Brothers movies when I was a kid.
Right.
No.
Oh God.
And you definitely have to be in the right mindset too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, I mean, when I lived in LA for a brief time, it was like Fargo, and you're from Minnesota, so it's like Fargo, and it's just like, and they're like, because they can hear my oaths out there. They first asked if I was Canadian, but then I was like, no. But okay. And then I said Minnesota, and I was like, oh yeah, Fargo. It's like, oh.
Right. Don't want to hear it. They just immediately go Judy Garland. You gotta,
Yes. You need to start pushing that. Get that in people's brains.
Minnesota, it's somewhere over the rainbow.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I like that. So like also just I wanted to touch real briefly on the marketing aspect of that with our tax incentive and as kind of a macro view of Minnesota in the landscape of film. It's kind of we're a flyover state, so it's kind of like it's a blip, so to speak. So, because I know how the rest of the world functions when it comes to like co-productions and, rebates and tax incentives and everything. But what would entice, I don't know, do you see like a major film being made here other than a Coen brother film, that is?
I mean, honestly, at this point, yes. And I'll say that in reference to what happened with the Hunger Games, because those were they originally being shot in North Carolina, I think. But then they were in the middle of shooting, I think, the second one, and there was a new law that came out about like which bathroom trans people can use, that trans bathroom bill. Oh. And so then they pulled the movie from filming in North Carolina, and I think they moved it over to Atlanta. And I mean, like rightfully so. Like, I don't blame them for doing that. But with the news that just came out about the Supreme Court, we might be in most people's eyes a flyover state. But we also know that we're a safe haven, at least for now, for women who need access to abortions and just reproductive health care. And I mean, kind of seems like that might be a good enough of a reason for someone to want to film here to kind of make that more prominently known, considering the states that surround us and what their laws are regarding that. So then it's kind of almost the rebate or the tax incentive is kind of like the cherry on top there, because we do have great scenery too. Like it's so beautiful here, and you can have all these different environments too that you can find, like Duluth doesn't look anything like, I don't know, out over in like Glencoe. Like they're very different looking places, and that is great when it comes to wanting to shoot a film if you are trying to make it look like you're in a bunch of different places.
Yeah. That's exactly how they sell it, like internationally, like different international spots to come film there, because they know money's going to come with that film. So it's like, anyways, so
I mean, especially like if with how VFX and how studios, I mean, sometimes studios should not be relying so much on the VFX, but if they are going to rely on it so much, why would you, no offense, Utah, why would you want to shoot something in Utah, right now, when you could just shoot it here and add the mountains in post? if you were going to have a VFX crew anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They made a film here about Tuscaloosa, so it's like
Mhm.
that was shot in Minnesota. So it's like,
Yep.
yes, we have that look. So yeah. Anyways, I'm glad you brought up all those things. So it's just like, yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
What part of film inspires you the most, would you say?
It's kind of a tough one.
Mm.
Well, I feel like all of my favorite memories of films have been when I've been in a totally packed audience in the theaters.
Mhm.
Just because I'm very reactive. So like when I'm watching a scary movie, I am going to scream. Like that will happen. And so it's just so much more fun being in a super packed theater and hearing everyone else scream too at the same time, or like laugh at the same time. You know, it can be kind of like embarrassing if you're like sobbing at a Pixar movie in theaters, but like it's not nearly as embarrassing when you look over and like everyone else is too.
Yeah.
And so it's like that nice little reminder. Like I really do think that everyone, like we're all much more similar than we are different. And so I feel like I like that I kind of get a little bit proven right when watching movies in packed theaters, you know, because, you know, there are visual cues that it's affecting you in a similar way. It's evoking the same reaction. So we must have something in common.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So Becca, can you tell us what's next for you? Like what's your next like goal or want to do when it comes to the film community? If you have one. Otherwise, if you're just like really, maybe you just love what you're doing now and you want to let the world know about this is something you can do.
Ooh, I mean, yeah, this is totally something anyone can do. So I hope that they know that. I mean, honestly, now that we have all 5 screens at the main, I'm really, really trying to get a programming director, Jesse, to let me have like a once a month film series or something.
Oh, cool.
On like a random day of the week. I told him I would take some random matinee time slot or something. Because I like recommending things for people. And I like, it would be just fun to make all of the like design elements for like a little film series where I get to make a cute little poster and like have films lined up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like some cute little thing. And then it's in a theater. So basically I kind of want to use my position to do what I think a lot of other people want to do, which is just like host a community screening with their friends and just have it be something that they picked and organized and have people respond well to it.
That's a great idea. I mean, I think locally you'll find a bunch of people that will be like, yeah, sign me up, because we have those little things like Scream It Off Screen, for instance, and things like that. And it's just like, as a filmmaker, it's terrifying, but
there's a lot.
I know that.
What?
I know that this isn't. You can cut this part out, but just since you mentioned Scream It Off Screen, I just wanted to ask if either of you might be going tomorrow evening.
I have been there. Like it was the last showing before shutdown. So, yeah.
Just because this is a secret for now, I'm going to be screamy tomorrow.
Ooh, do you have a film?
That's exciting.
No, I'm going to be like dressing up as Screamy tomorrow. Like I think Terry.
Oh, you're screaming.
Yeah, like Terry's brother, I think, is normally Screamy, and so I guess he's busy or he has something going on, so he can't do it. So Natalie asked me to do it, and I was like, hell yeah.
That's so fun.
It's a shorter Screamy, but yeah.
But I'm going to kill it. I'm excited.
I believe that.
you got all the movements down. You got to figure out like, because it's kind of like a mime situation, right? With Screamy.
It's funny. I've actually only watched it virtually.
Oh,
but Natalie still wants me to be Screamy, so she sees something in me, you know?
Oh, I like that.
That'll be so fun. That could be the next fun fact.
True. Next time I'm on.
I feel like we need to keep that in, but
yeah, don't cut that.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it's okay because by the time people hear it, they'll have to be thinking back about, you know, when they went and what Screamy looked like. So
it'll have already happened.
Yeah.
I love that though. That's so exciting.
Yeah. See, nothing's wasted here. Just pure protein. No. Film protein. Anyways, premium cuts, yes. Where can people find your work or at least follow and support you?
Well, I do have a website that I haven't, I guess, updated in a minute, but it still looks pretty. And that's just beccamayo.com. My social media is actually all on private. Just because.
Understandable.
Yep.
You know, it can be fun to have a bunch of followers, I guess. But at the same time, I highly doubt everyone really wants to know every little thought that comes into my head. Like they don't really need it. But I'm sure if you seek me out, you'll find me quite easily because I have been online for over 10 years now. So I might accept if you can find me. So if you're that determined, follow me on social media. Otherwise, what would really mean the most is if you followed the Film Society's social media accounts.
Yes.
Which is just MSP Film Society on everything. And we are on Letterboxd. So it's kind of nice to be able to keep track of things on there. I don't know if people use that one.
I honestly don't know what that is.
I've never heard of it before, but I'm intrigued.
Oh my, wait, really? Letterboxd is basically, it's like a film social media, but it really is good about, like the focus is all on the films. And so basically you can follow people. They have special accounts for organizations, so you can follow different organizations. And basically you can log all of the films that you have watched, and you can put in what date that you watched them. So that way, if like you really want to keep track, like I like to do that. So I know when people ask me like, what have you seen?
Right.
I can remember.
Yeah.
But you can review movies. You can comment on people's reviews of movies. And you can make lists. They're so awesome for making lists of films, like your top 10 films of the summer, or like people make really funny lists that might be kind of based off of the cover art. Like I remember seeing one of them that was like movies where the actor is looking wistfully to the left. And it's just like all these different films that have like the same layout on their like poster art. It's really fun. I like it a lot. Oh, so yeah, everyone can follow me on Letterboxd at least. Yeah. That one is not private. And I think my username on that is just Becca Mayo. So
okay.
That's awesome. I'm downloading it right now.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Like I got really into all those app or websites, really like Gather and I guess Letterboxd. It sounds familiar, but I'm like, there's so many different film stuff that it was hard to kind of like slated and things like that as a filmmaker. And I don't know. Anyways.
No, this one is awesome. It shows you like what movies are popular this week, what your friends have been watching, what's popular with your friends. You can add movies to your watch list too, which is my favorite feature, I think. Ooh. So anytime you hear of a movie that sounds cool or you want to watch, you just add it to your watch list and you can keep track of all of it.
Does it track like where it's showing and such?
Yeah.
Like apps and such. There you go.
Yep. If it's showing in theater, I think if it's showing in theaters, I think they have a link for IMDb to like look up the show times. But if it's streaming on an app, it'll say that. And they have so much on there. I love it.
This is amazing. I'm very excited about this. I had no idea that existed. This is fantastic. All right, Becca, we've got the big question before we let you have your day back. What do you want people to remember most about you?
I think it would be that I am more approachable than I may seem. In the sense of like, if someone's listening to this and they do have a question, I don't know, for any reason, whether like someone looking for advice on what they should do, what they should do to get where they want to be, like whatever question I guess it is. The only way you're going to be able to get any like help is if you ask for it. And I feel like in Minnesota, when we're still just very Minnesota nice, and people, they don't want to bother someone. They don't want to feel like they're taking up someone's time if they're really busy or something. Like, I don't know, I feel like everything that I was saying about what I like working here goes back to the way that it's a community here that we have. And the whole thing about a community is that it's people that are taking care of each other and looking out for each other. So like, this is what I would want people to remember about me, but also everyone else, that like, you should always feel comfortable asking people for help, questions, advice. If someone kind of brushes you off, it doesn't mean that you should stop. You should just find someone else to ask, because there are so many nice, helpful people that have great stories to tell too. Even if it's might not be helpful for you, you'll learn some really cool stuff.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I would agree with that. I mean, we've learned some really cool stuff about you so far today. So this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and hanging out with us, answering all of our questions. This was great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Right.
Awesome. And for all of our listeners, thanks for joining us for Film in Minnesota.